Alright, here's my 2000 A8. Figured I'd start with the engine. Here it is running. It's got a new electric fan, new fan clutch, timing belt, drive belt, tensioners, rollers, water pump, thermostat. Power steering pump was done. All this stuff was done within the past year or so. Brake fluid flush, air filter, coolant, obviously, when the thermostat and water pump were done. I removed this baffle inside here. The valve cover gaskets were done, so you can see inside. You can see that it's nice and clean. It's going to sludge up at all. This car uses about a quart every 800 to 900 miles. Mileage is 213. I've owned it for about 70,000, and it's never gotten any better. It's never gotten any worse. The car's got absolutely no leaks. So let me do some more on the mechanical. Well, let me walk around the body, and then I'll give you some more on the mechanical details. That's it running. AC's on. AC works great. Step back so you get an idea. It's got all original paint. No paint work except for front and rear bumpers, which I did when I bought the car about 5 years ago. I just had it detailed. Paint looks absolutely amazing considering the mileage. Look down this side. Tires are basically brand new, 3,000 or 4,000 miles. Front brakes were done. I did rear brakes and calipers, rebuilt those at one point. Transmission was transplanted from my old car. It's had 2 filter changes and fluid change, obviously. I can tell you exactly what the miles is on the transmission. It shifts flawlessly. It's mileage-wise, it's due for another fluid and filter change. It's got about 60,000, I think, on this one, so I would do it again. Just kind of panning around the body here. Again, the paint is, this detailer is really good. It looks absolutely amazing. So interior-wise, nothing really too notable here. Interior is in good shape. There's a couple things that probably could use some attention. Couple of things that I didn't get around to fixing, just kind of inside, so you can see it. I just drove it about 40 miles, so temperature's right where it should be. Idle's nice. There's no codes. A couple of minor things, as I started to say, that I never got around to fixing. One of the flat motors here clicks. Kind of forget how often, maybe once an hour or something. It clicks for 10 or 15 seconds. That's an easy fix. I've got an extra Symphony radio in the trunk with a code, so I'll include that. The sunroof takes a couple tries to close, so this switch either needs to be cleaned or replaced. I'm trying to think, all the lights and everything in here work. It's got the factory nav. One of these buttons is a little flaky, so the nav itself is flaky, but that nav is 12 years old now and pretty much useless, so up to you if you wanted to replace the switch and keep it going, or just use a Garmin or something else. Be a good candidate for a Nav Plus. Alright, trying to think of what else. Let me see how well this works out. I'm going to open up the manual for kind of remind me of all this big stuff that I've done since I bought the car. Let's see, so kind of real quick here, and I have receipts for all this stuff. That's right, I did do the passenger side catalytic converter, pre-cat O2s, control arms, tie rod ends have all been done. That's right, I did replace, this was expensive, I replaced the instrument cluster because the pixels were all faded out. So all these pixels are good. It's a really common issue with these cars. When it gets hot or cold, they fade out, and with this mileage and age, this cluster would be long shot. So you don't have to worry about that. It's about a $1,200 part. Yeah, real calipers I did. There's transmission swap I did in 07, so I can give you all the history on that. While it was out, I did the rear main seal, I did the rear cam plugs, all the rear diff seals have been done at one point. Plugs, fuel pump I did in 09, so about 50,000 miles ago. So that's good, you don't have to worry about that. Driver's side caliper I rebuilt, fan clutch, tires, those are the older tires. I did replace the radiator, did a swap there. Oil change is never over 5,000 miles. That's right, ABS controller I did at 190. Battery was done a little less than 2 years ago. Power steering pump I mentioned, and then I did the crank seal along with the timing belt and everything else that I mentioned. Thermostat, blah blah blah. So I don't know how this is going to come out in video, but I'll go into this in more detail with you. So that is essentially the car. There's the clicking noise. So you can hear that real time. Then it stops. So that's an easy fix. It's annoying. It's probably the one right here on this side. I can even give you an extra one if you want to swap it out at some point. So that's pretty much it. Everything works. Oh, the only other thing is I'm getting a slight vibration when I take my foot off the accelerator when you're on the highway. My wife doesn't even notice it. I feel it. When you're on the gas, it goes away. It's been like that for about a year and a half. I've been kind of waiting for it to get worse. It's probably the beginning of a wheel bearing starting to go. But I was just waiting for it to get worse so I could troubleshoot it a little bit easier. But it hasn't. Now, normally I think that would be something to do with the drive shaft, but that drive shaft was replaced. It's probably got 70 or 80,000 miles on it. It's the only reason I don't think it's that. And I'm thinking of wheel bearing. I don't think any of the wheel bearings have done on this car. And by the way, I do have all the records since the car was new. It was serviced at one dealer. I bought it from a wholesaler, but it was only a one-owner car, so I've got all those records. And that's pretty much it. Heated seats, they work. AC, I mentioned, works great. It tracks straight. It's smooth. It's quiet. The only thing you need to do is just keep an eye on the oils I mentioned. Keep changing it. Maybe do a tranny fluid and filter change, but no issues right now, just preventative. And that's pretty much it. So let me post this and wait to hear back from you guys.